Negative thinking often feels like an automatic response to life's challenges, but Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our thoughts are not imposed on us. They are within our control. He believed that the way we perceive and interpret events determines whether they disturb us or leave us unaffected. This is a powerful realization because it puts the responsibility for our mental state back into our own hands. When you catch yourself thinking negatively, pause for a moment and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that no matter what happens around us, we always have the ability to choose how we think about it. The external world is chaotic and unpredictable, but our inner world can be a place of calm and reason if we choose to make it so. Negative thinking often arises when we focus on things outside our control, what others think of us, mistakes we've made, or fears about the future. Marcus teaches us to shift our attention to what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. He encourages us to challenge negative thoughts by asking whether they align with reality or whether they're just assumptions or fears. This practice creates a mental filter that prevents unnecessary negativity from taking hold. For example, if you're worried about something that hasn't happened yet, remind yourself that the future is uncertain and dwelling on it won't change the outcome. Instead, focus on what you can do in the present moment to prepare or act wisely. Marcus wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." Negative thinking also thrives on repetition. The more you allow negative thoughts to linger, the stronger they become. Marcus encourages us to stop feeding these thoughts. He suggests redirecting our mind to more constructive ideas. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means addressing them with clarity and reason rather than letting them spiral into despair. By breaking the cycle of negative thinking, you free up mental energy to focus on solutions and growth. Marcus Aurelius believed that our thoughts shape our character and our life. If we constantly allow negativity to dominate our mind, it becomes a habit, and habits shape who we are. By consciously choosing to think positively, or at least neutrally, we begin to cultivate a mindset of resilience and peace. Marcus reminds us that while we can't always control the events in our lives, we can control how we choose to perceive them. This simple shift in perspective is the key to killing negative thinking and reclaiming inner strength. Negative thinking often takes the form of repeating patterns in our minds. These patterns can include self-doubt, fear, or harsh judgments about ourselves and others. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of recognizing and understanding these patterns because only then can we start to dismantle them. He believed that many of our problems come from within, from how we allow our thoughts to run unchecked, rather than from external events themselves. One of the first steps in identifying negative thought patterns is to cultivate self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on his own thoughts and actions, writing in his journal as a way to better understand himself. He once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This means that whatever dominates your thinking will ultimately shape your character and the way you experience life. If negativity takes over your thoughts, it will inevitably seep into your actions and relationships. To identify these patterns, start paying attention to your inner dialogue. What do you say to yourself when things go wrong? Do you find yourself jumping to conclusions, blaming others, or criticizing yourself harshly? These recurring thoughts are clues to the patterns that may be holding you back. For example, you might notice that you frequently think, "I'll never be good enough," or "Things never go my way." These are not truths, they're habits of thought that you've developed over time. Marcus Aurelius believed that our minds have the ability to question and challenge these patterns. He encouraged self-inquiry by asking questions like, "Is this thought true? Is it helpful? Does it reflect reality?" He also believed that we must separate our emotions from facts, a practice that helps to dismantle the power of negative thoughts. For instance, just because you feel unworthy doesn't mean you are unworthy. By questioning your thoughts, you can begin to see them for what they are, temporary and often irrational. Another powerful tool Marcus emphasized is observing the source of your negativity. Are these thoughts influenced by past experiences, fears about the future, or external pressures? When you understand where a thought comes from, you can start to break its hold on you. He advised, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this, you have the power to revoke at any moment." This reminds us that we have control over how we interpret and react to situations. Identifying negative thought patterns is not about blaming yourself or feeling bad for having these thoughts. Instead, it's about recognizing them as habits that can be changed. The more you practice observing and challenging your thoughts, the more you create space for constructive and empowering ideas to take their place. Marcus understood that our thoughts are like seeds. What we nurture will grow. By identifying and uprooting the negative ones, we make room for the positive thoughts that will shape our lives for the better. Negative thinking often stems from our tendency to focus on things that are beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius believed that a key to peace of mind lies in understanding and accepting the boundary between what we can influence and what we cannot. This distinction is at the heart of Stoic philosophy and serves as a practical guide to eliminating unnecessary worry and frustration. When faced with challenges or setbacks, we often waste mental energy trying to control external factors, how people behave, the outcomes of situations, or even random events. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that this is not where our true power lies. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that while we cannot dictate what happens around us, we can always choose how we think about it and how we respond. To apply this principle, start by separating the elements of any situation into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. For example, you cannot control whether someone criticizes you, but you can control how you interpret their words and whether you let them affect your sense of self-worth. Similarly, you cannot control the outcome of an event, but you can control the effort and preparation you put into it. By focusing only on what you can influence, you conserve your energy and direct it toward actions that truly matter. Marcus Aurelius also believed that understanding this distinction allows us to approach life with greater calm and clarity. When we let go of the illusion of control over external things, we free ourselves from unnecessary anxiety and frustration. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This reminds us that much of our suffering comes from how we perceive events, not the events themselves. This principle can also be applied to expectations. Often, negative thinking arises because reality doesn't match our expectations, whether it's about people, circumstances, or outcomes. Marcus Aurelius advises us to temper our expectations and accept the nature of the world as it is. He believed that aligning our perspective with reality allows us to find peace. When we stop wishing for things to be different and instead focus on how we can adapt or respond, we free ourselves from the mental turmoil caused by unrealistic expectations. By consistently practicing this distinction between what you can and cannot control, you build a mindset of resilience. You learn to approach life's uncertainties with calm and rationality rather than being swept away by negative emotions. This shift in focus not only reduces negative thinking, but also empowers you to take meaningful action where it truly counts. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom serves as a reminder that our true strength lies in mastering our minds, not in trying to control the uncontrollable. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the power of perspective in shaping how we experience life. Many of the challenges we face are not inherently good or bad. Rather, it's our interpretation of them that gives them meaning. He believed that by reframing negative situations, we can transform obstacles into opportunities and find growth in adversity. When something goes wrong, our instinct is often to focus on the negative aspects, dwelling on what we've lost or how unfair the situation seems. This perspective only amplifies our frustration and leaves us feeling powerless. Marcus Aurelius encouraged a different approach. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that challenges are not barriers, but opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. Reframing begins with asking yourself questions that shift your perspective. For example, instead of thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Or, "How can I use this experience to become better?" This small shift in mindset can change how you perceive even the most difficult situations. It transforms setbacks into lessons and hardships into stepping stones for personal growth. Another way to reframe negative situations is to focus on what remains within your control. If you face failure, for instance, instead of seeing it as the end, recognize it as feedback. Failure can teach you what doesn't work and help you refine your approach. Marcus Aurelius believed that every challenge contains an opportunity to practice virtue, whether it's patience, resilience, or courage. He saw life's difficulties as a training ground for becoming a better person. Perspective also helps you detach from emotional reactions. When you reframe a situation, you can separate the event itself from your feelings about it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This isn't about ignoring reality, but about understanding that your interpretation of events is what causes distress, not the events themselves. By reframing your thoughts, you reclaim your emotional stability and respond with clarity. Reframing also involves seeing the bigger picture. When faced with a problem, ask yourself how much it will matter in the long run. Marcus often reflected on the fleeting nature of life and the universe, reminding himself that most worries are insignificant in the grand scheme of things. This perspective can make even serious challenges feel more manageable, as it helps you focus on what truly matters. Ultimately, reframing is about choosing a narrative that empowers you rather than one that drags you down. It's not about denying reality, but about seeing it from a different angle, one that reveals the potential for growth, understanding, and strength. Marcus Aurelius's teachings remind us that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can always control how we perceive it. By practicing this skill, you can transform negativity into a source of resilience and find peace even in the face of life's challenges. Marcus Aurelius believed that one of the greatest keys to overcoming negative thinking is to fully immerse yourself in the present moment. Much of our mental suffering stems from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, which pulls us away from the reality of what is happening right now. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," urging us to focus our energy and attention on the moment at hand. When you think about it, the past is something we cannot change, no matter how much we replay it in our minds. Mistakes, regrets, or painful experiences, these are all locked in time. Worrying about them only drains us of the energy we could use to live better today. Similarly, the future is uncertain and unpredictable. While it's natural to think ahead, letting fear or anxiety about what might happen dominate your thoughts takes you away from the opportunities and responsibilities of the present. To embrace the present moment, start by grounding yourself in the reality of where you are and what you're doing. Pay attention to your surroundings, the sensations of your body, and the task in front of you. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the simplicity of focusing on one thing at a time. He believed that by concentrating on the present, we could do our best work and avoid unnecessary mental distraction. Living in the present also involves accepting what is happening without resistance. When we argue with reality, wishing things were different or lamenting circumstances, we create unnecessary mental turmoil. Marcus Aurelius taught that peace comes from aligning ourselves with what is, rather than what we wish it to be. This doesn't mean giving up on improvement. It means starting from a place of clarity and acceptance, rather than frustration or denial. Another important aspect of staying present is to detach from the outcomes of your actions. Do your best in every moment, but don't let your happiness depend on results that are beyond your control. Marcus Aurelius emphasized focusing on the process rather than the outcome, writing, "The fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good." By concentrating on what you can do right now with integrity and effort, you free yourself from the anxiety of uncertain results. Finally, Marcus Aurelius encouraged gratitude as a way to anchor ourselves in the present. When we take a moment to appreciate what we have right now, a breath of fresh air, the warmth of sunlight, the people in our lives, we naturally shift our focus away from negativity. Gratitude transforms our perspective and helps us see the present as a gift rather than something to be endured. By practicing mindfulness and presence, you reclaim control over your mind and reduce the power of negative thinking. The present moment is where your strength lies, and it is the only place where you can truly take action. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom reminds us that life unfolds one moment at a time, and by focusing on the here and now, we can live with greater clarity, peace, and purpose. Marcus Aurelius believed that developing inner strength is essential for overcoming negative thinking and living a fulfilling life. He taught that true resilience comes not from avoiding challenges, but from embracing them and using them to build character. This inner strength allows us to remain calm and composed even in the face of difficulties, ensuring that our thoughts and actions align with reason and virtue. To cultivate inner strength, Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of self-discipline. He believed that we must train our minds just as we would train our bodies, building mental resilience through consistent practice. One way to do this is by challenging ourselves to face discomfort or adversity rather than avoiding it. When we voluntarily take on small challenges, whether it's waking up early, staying calm in traffic, or stepping outside our comfort zone, we strengthen our ability to handle larger difficulties in life. Marcus also highlighted the importance of staying true to our values, even when it's difficult. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This means acting in alignment with your principles regardless of external circumstances. Each time you choose to act with integrity, even when it's inconvenient, you build a sense of self-trust and confidence that forms the foundation of inner strength. Another key aspect of developing inner strength is learning to detach from external validation. Marcus Aurelius believed that our worth does not depend on the opinions of others or on material success. Instead, it comes from within, from living a life guided by reason, virtue, and purpose. When we stop relying on external factors to define our self-worth, we become less vulnerable to negativity and more grounded in our own sense of identity. Marcus also encouraged us to maintain perspective when faced with challenges. He reminded himself that difficulties are part of the human experience and not unique to any one person. By seeing obstacles as opportunities to grow rather than as reasons to despair, we can approach life's trials with a sense of purpose. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This serves as a reminder that our response to challenges is what defines us, not the challenges themselves. Finally, Marcus Aurelius believed in the importance of reflection as a tool for building inner strength. By taking time to examine our thoughts, actions, and choices, we can identify areas for growth and reinforce our commitment to living with intention. Journaling or meditating on your day, as Marcus did, allows you to learn from your experiences and prepare for future challenges with greater clarity and focus. Inner strength is not something we are born with. It is something we build through intentional practice and self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius's teachings remind us that our minds are like muscles. The more we train them to handle adversity with reason and composure, the stronger and more resilient they become. Developing inner strength is a lifelong journey, but each step brings us closer to a life of peace, purpose, and fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius taught that much of our negative thinking comes from attaching too much importance to things that are temporary or superficial. He believed that detaching from these unnecessary concerns is essential for achieving peace of mind. This idea doesn't mean abandoning responsibilities or ignoring reality, but rather focusing only on what truly matters and letting go of what doesn't. One of the key areas where this applies is in material possessions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." When we obsess over acquiring more, whether it's wealth, luxury, or status, we risk filling our minds with constant desire and dissatisfaction. Detachment doesn't mean you can't enjoy the comforts of life, but it does mean not allowing them to control your happiness. By shifting your focus away from possessions and toward inner values, you free yourself from the anxiety of wanting more or the fear of losing what you have. Another area is public opinion and the judgments of others. Marcus Aurelius believed that worrying about what others think of us only distracts from living authentically. He reminded himself, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This highlights the futility of seeking approval from others. Their opinions are fleeting and often influenced by factors beyond your control. By detaching from the need for external validation, you gain the freedom to live according to your principles and values. Marcus Aurelius also encouraged detachment from outcomes. He believed that while we should do our best in any endeavor, we must not let our happiness depend on whether things turn out the way we want. Life is unpredictable, and many factors are beyond our influence. He wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." This mindset allows you to approach life's challenges with calm and balance, knowing that your effort is what truly matters. Another important aspect of detachment is letting go of past mistakes and future worries. Marcus Aurelius understood that dwelling on what has already happened or fearing what might happen only pulls us away from the present moment. He encouraged us to focus on what we can do right now, writing, "Do not waste the remaining part of your life in thoughts about others, unless it subserves some mutual interest." This reminds us to channel our energy toward what is productive and meaningful instead of clinging to regrets or anxieties. Finally, detachment involves recognizing the impermanence of life. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the fleeting nature of existence, reminding himself that everything we hold on to will eventually pass away. This perspective is not meant to be bleak, but liberating. By understanding that nothing lasts forever, we can let go of unnecessary attachments and appreciate what we have while we have it. Detachment, as Marcus Aurelius taught, is not about withdrawal or apathy. It's about freeing your mind from unnecessary burdens and focusing on what truly matters: virtue, purpose, and the present moment. By practicing detachment, you can release yourself from the grip of negative thinking and live with greater clarity, peace, and fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius taught that the stories we tell ourselves have a profound impact on how we experience life. Often, we become trapped in narratives filled with fear, doubt, or self-criticism, which only fuel negative thinking. He believed that by changing these stories, we could transform our perception of ourselves and the world around us, leading to a more resilient and peaceful mindset. The first step in rewriting your internal narrative is to become aware of the stories you are currently telling yourself. Marcus Aurelius frequently examined his own thoughts, writing them down to better understand their nature. He believed that many of our negative narratives are based on assumptions or exaggerated fears rather than reality. For instance, when you think, "I'm not good enough," or "this situation is hopeless," pause and question the validity of these thoughts. Are they facts, or are they just interpretations shaped by past experiences or insecurities? Marcus Aurelius encouraged replacing these destructive narratives with ones rooted in truth and reason. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that you are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you interpret and respond to it. If you tell yourself a story of resilience and growth, such as, "I am learning from this challenge," or "this difficulty is an opportunity to grow stronger," you shift your mindset from victimhood to empowerment. Another way to change your narrative is to focus on what you can control. Marcus Aurelius believed that much of our suffering comes from trying to control external events, which are often beyond our influence. Instead, he advised focusing on your thoughts, actions, and choices. By shifting your narrative from "I can't change this situation" to "I can change how I respond to this situation," you reclaim your agency and reduce feelings of helplessness. Marcus also emphasized the importance of gratitude in shaping a positive narrative. When you focus on what you lack, your story becomes one of deficiency and dissatisfaction. But when you focus on what you have, no matter how small, your story shifts to one of abundance and appreciation. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." Practicing gratitude regularly rewires your internal narrative, helping you to see the good even amidst challenges. Finally, Marcus Aurelius believed in aligning your internal narrative with your higher values and purpose. He often reminded himself that life's ultimate goal is to live with virtue and integrity, regardless of circumstances. By grounding your story in principles like courage, kindness, and wisdom, you create a narrative that supports your growth and resilience. Instead of telling yourself, "Life is unfair," you might say, "I have the strength to face life's challenges with grace." Changing your internal narrative is not about ignoring reality or forcing positivity. It's about choosing a perspective that empowers you and reflects your true potential. Marcus Aurelius's teachings remind us that the stories we tell ourselves shape our reality, and by rewriting these stories, we can overcome negative thinking and live with greater purpose and peace. Marcus Aurelius understood that one of the greatest sources of negative thinking is our tendency to dwell on the faults and shortcomings of others. This habit not only breeds frustration, but also distracts us from our own growth and responsibilities. He believed that by shifting our focus away from judging others, and instead practicing understanding and self-reflection, we could cultivate greater peace and clarity. When we judge others, we often project our expectations onto them. We expect people to behave in ways that align with our values, preferences, or beliefs. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that this expectation is unreasonable because everyone acts according to their own nature and circumstances. He wrote, "Whenever you are offended at someone's lack of shame, you should immediately ask yourself, so is it possible for there to be no shameless people in the world? It's not." This acknowledgement helps us accept that imperfections and mistakes are a natural part of the human condition. Rather than letting judgment consume your thoughts, Marcus Aurelius encouraged shifting your perspective. When you notice someone behaving poorly, try to understand the underlying reasons behind their actions. Perhaps they are struggling with their own challenges, fears, or ignorance. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean approaching situations with empathy rather than hostility. Marcus believed that this shift in perspective can help us maintain our composure and avoid unnecessary negativity. Focusing on our own actions and character is another way to avoid the trap of judging others. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that the only behavior he could truly control was his own. He wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This doesn't mean being overly harsh on yourself, but rather holding yourself accountable for living according to your values and principles. By concentrating on improving your own thoughts and actions, you free yourself from the mental clutter of constantly evaluating others. Marcus also emphasized the importance of forgiveness and letting go of resentment. Harboring negative thoughts about someone else's behavior only weighs you down and keeps you trapped in a cycle of anger or frustration. Instead, he believed in focusing on what truly matters, your own growth and the pursuit of virtue. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," reminding us that rising above negativity is a more powerful response than mirroring it. Another key aspect of avoiding judgment is recognizing that we, too, are imperfect. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on his own flaws and limitations, reminding himself that he was no different from those he might be tempted to judge. This humility helps us develop compassion, both for ourselves and for others. When we understand that everyone is doing the best they can with the knowledge and circumstances they have, it becomes easier to let go of criticism and focus on what we can control. By letting go of judgment, we create mental space for positivity and growth. Marcus Aurelius's teachings remind us that the time and energy spent criticizing others could be better used to refine our own character and pursue our goals. Instead of allowing negativity to take root in our minds, we can choose to approach life with understanding, empathy, and a focus on self-improvement.